Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil. If she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. To see her is to take a sudden chill. Cruella, Cruella de Vil. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the compliment. Cruella. So Cruella is another Disney live-action movie that is focusing on the origin stories of one of their iconic villains, this time being Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. Previously brought to light in live-action form to villainous perfection by Glenn Close in the very old movie that I can't remember came out, but I actually really do enjoy. In this movie though, we see Emma Stone take on the titular role of Cruella, in which after a series of fucking fuck off. Rude. Rude! What the fuck is messaging? In which we follow the... Oh, fucking Jesus, Jack. What do you want? Hello?
Yo, Josh.
What?
Are you still in the Meadowhall area?
No, I'm at home.
You're at home already?
Yeah.
Oh, how long have you been at home?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I finished at 8, don't forget.
We would have picked you up.
No, it's fine. I finished at 8, don't forget. I just couldn't make it to the film.
Oh, you finished at 8. Fair enough.
No worries. See you soon. Bye-bye.
No worries. I'll let you know how... Well, I'll let you go spoiler-free what we thought of it.
Oh yeah, spoiler free. You let me know.
Yeah, I'll let... Okay.
Okay. See you in a bit. Bye-bye. In which we follow young Cruella after a series of tragic events leads her to London, where she meets Jasper and Horace, of course her two henchmen, and while doing what they can to survive on the streets of London, they basically help Cruella achieve her dream of being a fashion designer. A dream that soon becomes a reality when she befriends the Baroness, played to absolute perfection by Emma Thompson. However, there is much more to the Baroness than meets the eye, which could see the two become bitter rivals, and that's essentially the plot of the movie. Without going into too much detail, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. And when it comes to origin movies like this, especially around iconic villains, I am very hesitant. Maleficent, for example, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I didn't really like that movie. I know a lot of people do love that film. If you do love it, that's amazing. And again, I feel like it takes somewhat sort of alternate timeline sort of look at another villain. Like, this isn't the villain that you'll see in their most recent, obviously, live action. This isn't the villain that you'd be seeing in their most recent live action adaptation or anything like that. These villains will not be growing into those villains. They're going into their own sort of personal character in their own sort of personal universe, separate from the main movies that we know them from. And the reason I say that is because Emma Stone as Cruella is absolutely phenomenal. She really eats up every scene she is in this role. She really makes it her own. She's very funny, she's very charismatic, she has a great screen presence as this character, and she was just a lot of fun to watch. And while Cruella is a very iconic character in being the very villainous person that we know from 101 Dalmatians, the way that they flesh her out in this movie, it does make you sympathise for her, which of course you're going to have to do in an origin story like this. And they do that by introducing Emma Thompson as the Baroness, who's the main antagonist in this movie, and again, Emma Thompson is just perfect in everything that she is in. She is phenomenal in this movie. She just commands the screen whenever she's present. She has quite an intimidating feel to her without being too in your face about it. She gives a very subdued, intense performance as this character. Like, she's clearly a very nasty woman, but she won't just let that dark side out into the open for everyone to see. She kind of keeps it hidden and just lets it slip out every now and then, to the point where the person she's talking to could feel threatened by her. And having the Baroness as the main villain in this movie does help us sympathise more for Cruella, which is a very difficult thing to do considering in 101 Dalmatians she skins dogs to make coats. Like, that's not a good thing. That's going to take a lot of redemption to really make us sympathise for this character. Which brings me on to the mention of this being an alternate sort of universe or timeline, because the way this movie ends with her character, I don't see her, or even Horace and Jasper, going on to be the characters that they are in 101 Dalmatians. If they did, it'd be a very weird 180 turn as to what they've done in this movie, or the characters that they've been fleshed out as and portrayed as in this movie. Like, you can see they have that tiniest bit of evil in them. However, when comparing them to the characters that they've had in the previous iterations, 101 Dalmatians animation and the live action remake with Glenn Close, they were clearly bad people, whereas in this movie they have a lot of heart. They care a lot about other people. They also care a lot about dogs. I mean, there are dogs in this movie. They're quite prevalent in this movie, as you'd come to expect from a 101 Dalmatians universe type film. Which brings me into another little nitpick about the film. The CGI dogs looked a little bit shit. They use a lot of CGI dogs in this movie rather than actual dogs in certain scenes, and I don't necessarily know why, especially in certain scenes where you could have an actual dog performing it, a real dog on the set. Like, there's a particular scene in this movie where a little dog just jumped into Horace's arms and he carries it away. Why couldn't that have been a real dog? It was so clearly a CGI dog, and there are other scenes where it is clearly a CGI dog where it took me out of the movie a little bit. I really didn't like the way they looked. It was very distracting. And I get it, in more of a fast-paced action scenes you want to use CGI so you make sure the dogs are actually safe and all that. But they were very clearly CGI. Which is a shame, because everything else about this movie I absolutely loved. I thought all the performances were fantastic. I thought the story is very intriguing. The movie itself is 2 hours 10 minutes, roughly around that sort of area. I never found myself getting bored. I sympathised for Cruella's character, especially in the first half. They really do a lot to flesh her out and make you sympathise for her. In the second half, you do sympathise more for Horace and Jasper in the movie, because they're seeing this evil side to Cruella that she's obviously bringing out to go up against the Baroness. And in fact, she does start treating them like shit. She does start treating them like lackeys. Is lackeys the right word I need to use there? I'm pretty sure it's the right word. I'm an idiot. I don't do words. I could be using that word completely incorrectly. Anyway, getting distracted. I found myself sympathising more for Horace and Jasper's character in the second half of this movie than I was Cruella. And while that is intentional, you are supposed to see this darker side to her as it comes out. I mean, she's supposed to redeem herself at the end of the film. It was one of those that when you do find it difficult to root for her towards the second half, that you start to become a little bit uninterested in what she's doing. Not so much that it dragged me out of the movie, but I was much more interested in seeing Jasper and Horace's side of the story rather than hers. That being said, despite a few tiny issues I have with the movie, I thought this was a great time. I can highly recommend checking this movie out. You won't be disappointed by it, unless of course you want to see Cruella skin dogs, in which case are you a psychopath? Not only did the movie have great performances from its lead actors Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, but the supporting cast all do a fantastic job as well. It moves along at a nice steady pace, over 2 hours just fly by, but not so much that it makes it feel like it was too quick. It gives you time with the characters to flesh them out, to help you sympathise with Cruella, to help you sympathise with Jasper and Horace. Emma Thompson as the main villain, as I said, was absolutely fantastic. You really do despise her as a character, but obviously you can't take your eyes off of her due to Emma Thompson's incredible screen presence. And while the CGI dogs did take me out of it a little bit, and the ending obviously not really leading on to 101 Dalmatians in my opinion with the way they fleshed out these characters or the way the characters were going, I prefer to see it in its own sort of pocket universe, its own sort of alternate timeline for these characters. And personally I think if you do that, you'll have a bit of more enjoyable time with the movie, because you don't want to see the character that you've watched for 2 hours 10 minutes redeem herself in a way to the point where you care about her and then go on to skin dogs, because what's the point in really having this movie then? And just before I get to the rating, there is also a post-credit scene in this movie which was very strange. I didn't really feel like it needed to be in this movie, because now it just makes me rethink everything in 101 Dalmatians. Without going into spoilers, if Cruella does become the Cruella that we know from 101 Dalmatians, did she plan it to be this way? Did she plan for these two characters to get together and, you know, the dogs? And it's very confusing. But with all that said, I did really enjoy this film. I highly recommend checking it out for yourselves if you are a fan of course, 101 Dalmatians, or just a fan of really good Disney movies. Like, I was surprised it was as good as it was. Personally, I was very reserved. I didn't have high expectations for it, and in that I was pleasantly surprised. I had a really good time with the film. And so, for all those reasons, I have to give Cruella 4 stars. So Cruella, have you guys seen it yet? What did you guys think about it? Whatever your thoughts were, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks to those for watching, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with friends, and if you want to see more videos just like this one, then subscribe to my channel for more. Thanks again for watching. You guys are awesome, and I will see you all in the next video.